Hi, everyone. This is Terry from Terry Loves Books, and I'm here with a pop-up interview today with Mark O'Neill. Hi, Mark. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
Good. Mark is actually in Germany, which is part of why I love this process. There's no way I can just fly over to Germany on the spur of the moment, say, hey, Mark, how's it going? Let's talk, and then come back home. It just wouldn't work. But because of the website I'm using, zoom.com, which I'm not plugging them because this is not an affiliate or anything like that. I just love this website. I get to set up these pop-up interviews. So if you're an author, a blogger, a reader, you want to sit and chat with me, let me know. We'll work something out. And so, Mark, how are you?
I'm fine.
Good.
No,
Mark, why
it's
don't you
late.
tell us a little bit about what you write and what you got going on right now?
Well, I've been writing for quite a long time, but it's only in the last year that I've been publishing fiction. Before that, I was doing freelance copywriting for clients and being bored out of my skull because copywriting is not interesting at all. Pays the bills, but it's not very good for the brain cells.
Right.
And so I think it was July, August, I started writing my first fiction book and I put it out on Kindle. And I've now got 4 print books out and another 3 ebooks. They're not selling very well at the moment because I'm not marketing them very well. But they're out with my name on it, so it's good for the ego.
Good. What genre, what title, what are they about?
Um, they are spy thrillers, and I have to admit I was a little bit motivated by Mark Dawson. I don't know if you heard of Mark Dawson. Uh,
Absolutely.
yes, he writes British spy thrillers, so I thought that I would do a spy thriller, but I would set it in Germany since this is where I live. And I've had people tell me that it's quite interesting having a German spy instead of a British spy or an American spy, and because all these books are all about the CIA and about Americans saving the world, like Bruce Willis and so on. So I've had people tell me that it's quite refreshing to have another country, step in and do some of the work for a change.
That's actually pretty funny. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and plus with my books, the person in charge is a woman, and so I've kind of flipped the gender a little bit because normally, as I said, it's normally your macho Bruce Willis type of guy, and the women are like in James Bond, they're just the sex symbol, that
Right.
coos and goes to bed with the guy and so on. But
Right.
with my books, I flipped it around so that it's women that are in charge as well. And I've also had quite a lot of people tell me that that's quite a refreshing change to see a woman being the strong character.
Okay. Now, I don't think you're talking with a German accent, though, are you?
No, I'm from Scotland.
From Scotland. Okay, so how does a Scotland fiction writer end up in Germany writing about German spies?
I think my mother keeps asking the same question. Um, well, I met my wife here, and so we got married, and so I'm living here with my wife. And as I said, the books, it's just something I've always wanted to do. And I've just never had a good story idea up until now. And then when I read Mark Dawson's books, and I thought, well, I can do that. And I can just put a German spin on it instead.
Do you have them with you? You can show us the books?
Well, that's the first one,
Okay.
The
The
Renegade
Spy.
Spy. That's like it's like a novella. It's like a prequel. I call it the Phantom Menace because like after the Star Wars film, it's like the prequel. Although I think mine is better than the Phantom Menace. Uh, and I think it's now perma-free on Amazon, so
Okay.
people can download the ebook. But obviously the paperback costs something. And then it's the full-length book, The Reichsbank Gold,
How do
and
you say that?
that's my protagonist on the front, my bitch, as I call her. Sorry, I mean that in a nice way, by the way.
That's okay.
She calls herself a bitch.
Is that you said that was the Reichsbank?
I'm
Is that,
sorry.
how do you pronounce that title?
The Reichsbank Gold. The
Okay.
Reichsbank was what the German National Bank used to be called
Oh,
up
okay.
until the end of the war, and now
Okay.
it's called the Bundesbank because Reichsbank sounds a lot very Nazi, you know, so they try to take away all the Nazi connections. So they call it the Bundesbank now. But before the war, it was called the Reichsbank, and it's actually based on a bit of a true story, because during the war, the Nazis took all the gold out of the bank and they hid them in the mountains to get away from the bombers.
Right.
And so the book's partly based on some of the gold that went missing.
Okay.
And some of the gold is actually still missing. So we've actually got treasure hunters going through the mountains all the time looking for the gold. That's book 3, The Executioner. And this is the one that I brought out a couple of weeks ago, book 4.
Awesome.
So I was actually going to take a break from spy thrillers, but I think public demand's wanting me to do another one. So I've had people getting in touch saying, when's the next one coming out? So I think I'm just going to start on the next one.
That has to be exciting as an author when somebody says, hello, I want that next book. When's it coming?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not so many people, so it's not like I can put the down payment on the Porsche or anything. But yeah, it's nice to have a few people who have said that they enjoy it and they want the next one coming out soon. So hopefully the sales will go up soon.
I have a friend of mine, and we always joke that every month we get to buy an extra cup of coffee or get our nails painted.
Yeah, I think probably I can get a cup of coffee out of mine as well. But I'd like to think I can make more out of it, because obviously writing a book's a big process, and it takes a long time, and you know, so I'd like to think that I'm going to get more than a cup of coffee out of it in the long term.
Especially I think with the spy thriller, because you probably have to do a lot of research to make sure you get things correct.
Well, yes and no. I mean, obviously, I don't make things totally unbelievable, but at the same time, I always say to people that when you read a book, you're kind of suspending disbelief for a little while. So, you know, if something doesn't sound totally right, you know, it doesn't really spoil the story that much. Right. I mean, if you're at the cinema and you're watching an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie and he jumps onto a jet fighter, you don't think to yourself, oh, that's unrealistic, I'm leaving. You know, you watch it and you enjoy it, you know. So I think it's the same with these books. You know, you read them and then you think to yourself, okay, well, it wasn't totally realistic, but it was still a good story. I liked it. And so, I mean, I do research, but I'm not obsessive about it. Because I know some guys who are like getting into the names of the guns and the names of the bullets that go in the guns. And I think, well, why? You know, you don't need to know all that.
You know, I think there's probably some people out there who would really like that. But I know for somebody like me, those are the kind of details that I think I would just get bored with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think it interrupts the flow of the story when you get bogged down in such details. I think what you're wanting to see is just character development, what's going to happen next in the plot, the next twist. You know, I don't think you're interested in what bullets are going in the gun.
Yeah, I would have to say for sure I'm not. For me, it's character and world building. I like to read a lot of fantasy. Yeah. And so I want to make sure you can't see this right now, but I'm sitting in front of this big picture window. That's where my office is, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I'm reading a book, I want to be able to, in my mind's eye, look out the window and see the world that the author has created. Mm-hmm. And so the details about, well, it was this caliber and it was with this and they shot at the 95-degree angle and the wind was 180 knots or miles or kilometers, whatever you want to say, I'd be like, okay, I'd skim that part.
That tells you something about how obsessive they are in the mind if they have to go through all of that. You know, it's crazy. I mean, I like Mark Dawson's books, as I said, but sometimes he gets bogged down in the details as well. Sometimes he goes into the makes of the guns and all that kind of thing. And I just think, no, not for me. Not for me.
Now, I noticed you have, obviously you got a lot of books behind you, so you must be a very avid reader.
Well, actually, I've got rid of about half of them already, so I've actually had a lot more than that. I'm kind of in the process of slimming the collection down.
Okay, but I also noticed there's something green. that's hanging up behind your head on the bookshelf? Is it green? It's like a green, that like a doll or something hanging up in the corner?
Yes, it's a witch. It belonged to my wife's grandfather, and then when he died, nobody wanted it because they said, "Oh, that's ugly. I don't want that." But I like it, so I got it. So
I I love that. Did you have like a story to go behind it? Like, is it to
no,
help ward off evil spirits or something? Or
no, I just hung it up because it pisses my wife off.
that's for the next show. We'll talk about that. I think Dr. Phil has a show about something like that. So.
All right, okay, yeah, and the name of I call her after my wife's best friend, and that pisses her off as well. So.
I don't want to get you in trouble, Mark.
Oh no, don't worry. She knows. She
Okay.
knows.
See,
No, that's just my sense of humor. You know, I just like to do these things to people and wind people up.
you should come up with some kind of story, like it's there to ward off evil fairies or something like that.
Yeah, but who would I tell that story to? In a book, you mean?
No, just like anybody who comes over. Or just tell them that if they piss you off, that you're going to stick the witch on them.
Yeah, I could try that, but I mean, I just tell them that it's just to piss the wife off, and that just makes them laugh, like it made you laugh. So,
Well, yeah, it made me laugh. So let's go back to the writing.
mm
Do you when you're writing these thrillers,
mm
um, do you set like an outline? Do you have like a process of like going from the beginning to the end? Or to me, that just seems like writing thrillers would be harder than some of the other genres that are out there.
I don't really plan. No, I just start from the beginning, and I just write whatever comes into my head. I've had a lot of people say to me that must make it much more difficult, and they said, you should have an outline. You should know where you're going from one to the next, and so. But to me, that sounds so clinical. It sounds so. I mean, to me, that takes the fun out of writing. What I like about writing is that you never know what's going to happen next. You could be writing about one thing and then all of a sudden you're writing something else. But
Mhm.
if you're planning, to me that's just not fun. So I just start writing and see where it goes. And yes, it involves a lot of rewriting, and it involves a lot of crap that I might write one day and then I delete it all and say, oh, well, that's no good. But that's just the way I do it. And sometimes if I get stuck, I just go to the end and I write the end and I work backwards. So that sometimes works for me if I know how it ends, and then that kind of helps me out, you know, to go back to the part where I'm stuck.
Do your stories end, or do you like to do cliffhangers?
Um, they end, but you kind of have to read the books in the series, so they're not standalone books. I try to make them standalone books, but I often find myself referring to things that happened in the other books. So you've kind of got to read them in order, which is kind of bad if people only want to read one book, and then they discover that they have to buy the rest. I'm just waiting for the first complaint on Amazon from a reviewer saying, "Oh, I didn't know I had to buy all of them." But I think that's just part of the world building. When you develop the characters, you develop events in those stories, and then you refer back to them, and I think that's just what ties it all together.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that a lot. I have a love-hate relationship with series. I love them because in my head,
Mm.
people feel these characters as like they're real people, and if I don't
Mm.
keep reading, and this is so silly, I don't think I've ever said this to anybody before, if I don't keep reading, it's almost like I feel like their lives end. So I have to
Yeah.
keep reading so I can make sure they get what they need to do. But on the other hand, it's like, if you read a series, like I'll read yours, like 4 books, I read them like let's say a month. I could read that probably in a month. And then I'm going to be like, Mark, come on. I need the next one like now. And then
I,
I'll read that, and I need the next one now. And then I need the next one now.
I have to admit, I am very attached to my characters, which is why when one book's finished, I do have to start another one, because I do want to see what happens to them next. I mean, I often joke that, the woman in charge of this department is my girlfriend. I always say to my wife, I'm going to start writing about my girlfriend now, and she just rolls her eyes. But I like the characters that I've made, and I'm proud of them. I'm proud of the fact that they're developing and people are liking them. And yeah, there is a little bit of a political statement, I suppose, in these books when I put the woman in charge, because people always joke about, oh well, if a woman's in charge you can pay her less, and women don't deserve the same as what men deserve. And so by me putting a woman in charge, I'm saying, well, yes, she can do the same job, and she is entitled to what a man can do and what a man deserves. And so I am trying to make that point as well to people.
I recently tried to read Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy by Jean Le Carre, I believe is how you say it.
Le Carre, yeah.
Le Carre, okay. And I don't know that maybe I'm just not the right audience for that story. And I know the time period that it was in, the men were very much in charge of everything.
Oh, well, that was the 1960s and the 70s. So yeah, that was a different time period.
Yeah, and it was difficult for me to connect to the people in that story.
Yeah,
so I really like the idea of having a woman spy, or a woman who's in charge of whatever this organization that you've developed. Now, do you see an end in your series, or do you just plan on I'm going to keep going until?
I'll keep going for as long as I can. I mean, I'm only, as I said, I have four books that made it into print, and I have another 3 ebooks. So that's like 7 that I've done so far. I mean, I can see myself going up to maybe 15 or something, but I mean, I know that obviously you can't keep going forever because people will get bored.
Right.
So eventually, I'll try and do a spin-off maybe, or I'll do some other kind of series. But I'm not ready to give up on them just yet. I mean, there's so much more that I can explore into them. I mean, it's funny that people have said that they don't actually want to know too much about their personal lives, the characters' personal lives. They said that they're not interested in that. They just want to see what they do in their professional lives. So, which was it took me aback a little bit, because I wanted to go into their personal lives a little bit, because what do spies do when they leave the office?
Right.
They go home and sit at the dinner table and tell their wives what they did all day. I thought that would have been quite a funny story, but nobody wanted that.
That's strange, because I think I would like to. Well, maybe I just need to sit down and read your books. That's what I
was going to say, have you actually read them?
No, I'm sorry, I haven't. I haven't read any of them. I met you I just met you like last week.
But I sent you a link to a free copy of my book.
I'm sorry, I did download it.
That's okay, don't worry. I'm just pulling your leg. No, there's lots of people who download them and then they say, oh, sorry, I don't have time, and it's like family, and they're like, well, thanks a lot, you're my family, you're supposed to be supporting me here. Come on.
No, it's not a matter of I haven't read it because I don't have time. It's just with my book blog, I have requests that are coming in, and so when I get something, I just have to keep them in order.
Right. Okay. So, no hurry.
But I can tell you that I'm very intrigued, and I'm really looking forward to reading it. Now, I see on the back you've got Star Wars posters, so you're a big Star Wars fan.
Yes, and Star Trek.
Oh, yeah, me too. Not very many people are both, so it's kind of good to meet somebody.
Yeah, I quite often can't decide which one I like more, so I'm a fan of both. Although the latest Star Trek series, I'm not sure about.
Well, you know what? I haven't seen any of the latest Star Trek stuff. Now, I've seen them at the movie theater, but we don't have regular cable, so I don't get the network stuff unless it's on Netflix or something like that.
Well, it's on Netflix. The new Star Trek series is on Netflix, but I'm not sure if I like it or not. It's a bit weird, but maybe you'll like it.
Okay. So, Mark, I always ask all of my guests a question. My philosophy in life is believe you can fly. It's really important to me that just to take a chance and just go out there and see what you can do.
Hmm.
And so either in your personal life or in your work life or something like that, can you share a time where you had to just take a leap of faith and how it worked out for you?
Oh God, talk about putting somebody on the spot. Well, I suppose off the top of my head, one of the times would be when I met my wife, and I came out here to live with her. I mean, obviously, moving to another country is a really big, thing to do. You've got to uproot yourself, pack all your stuff up, move to a foreign country, learn the language, and you don't know if it's going to work out, and so, and you've got relatives that are not very happy that you're away and so on. So I mean that was a big leap of faith, I think, to think to yourself, is this going to work? Is this going to am I going to still be here in a few years? And you know is things going to be fine? I mean, as it turns out, I'm 17 years later, I'm still here. So it's things did work out, but back then it was obviously a bit nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's one thing, like even in Scotland, it's just moved from one area of Scotland to another area of
Yeah.
Scotland, or here in the United States to move from one state to another state. But to
Mm.
move to a completely different country,
Yeah, but see, the United States is so big, it's like moving to another country. If you move from Texas to, say, New York, I mean, for us over here, that's the equivalent of moving to another country because because your country's so big.
yeah, and it's everything is everybody has their own little world. So yeah, Texas to New York would be like Scotland to Germany. That's
Yeah,
very good.
exactly.
And German's not very easy to learn either, is it?
The language is not well. Yeah, well, there are harder languages, and um, I would say that German uses a lot of English
Okay.
words.
Okay.
So, and obviously with the internet and so on, a lot of English has crept into the German language. But I would say that it's not that difficult once you start speaking it. Once you're immersed yourself in the culture and the the day-to-day stuff, then it's quite easy to speak it eventually. I would say the verbs are probably the hardest, but once you get the hang of it, I don't think it's that hard.
Oh, good. Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining me today. I really
No
appreciate it.
problem. No problem.
Stick around for just a second, and I'm going to sign off, and then we'll talk and we'll wrap it up, okay?
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for coming and watching another one of my pop-up interviews. Again, this was Mark O'Neill, and his thrillers are definitely something you need to check out. I will make sure and put all of the links to the books, to his Amazon page, to his website, to anything that connects to him so that you can find them. If you're watching this on my page, if you're watching
Money.
this if you're watching this on my page, if you haven't liked my page already, if you could like my page, I'd really appreciate it. And I will make sure and connect all my stuff down at the bottom too. Again, authors, bloggers, readers, if you'd like to come and sit and chat with me, we talk about all kinds of stuff. Nothing scripted. We just hang out and just see where it goes. So I hope you guys have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.